when someone asks you about the Karen Read case, and you're like, oh my God, there's just too much. I don't even know where to start. You can show them this.
This is pretty much all of it wrapped up in one. So Karen and John were dating, loving their life. John didn't want kids. They were going to just travel and have an awesome time. Karen is educated. She's a college professor. She was also an analyst at Fidelity Investments. John went off to graduate from Northeastern University, and then he went and got his master's degree at UMass. His master's degree was in criminal justice, and he was a police officer for the Boston Police Department for 16 years. His sister was away unexpectedly, and so did her husband. And John stepped up and started raising his niece and nephew, Haley and Patrick Forbush of Canton. So Karen is like, didn't want kids, but anyway, she decided to stick it out. They kind of were bickering back and forth because everybody was emotional. John's life's changing, her life's changing. I don't think he actually had a time to process the loss of his sister, who was one of his best friends. Now, when he was used to doing whatever he wanted to do, he was having to make sure 2 kids were okay, as well as having a full-time job and being with somebody like Karen, who was an independent woman and just didn't really have the capacity to deal with anybody else's crap. So his parents, kind of odd, different, weren't really helping, according to Karen. John was overwhelmed. They, on the weekends and things, when John, needed a break, they weren't stepping up and offering to babysit and things like that. One weekend, they were kind of getting into it, and they decided to take a trip with his friends. Turns out, Karen's kind of insecure, well, actually really insecure, and John was flirting with another girl that she thought, anyway, that he was flirting with another girl. So she gets in her head, then she's going to get him back, because, sometimes women do that. And so she starts flirting with a guy who is another police officer. Just casual, texting, inappropriate, not cool, but trying to get some self-worth back. I think she was going through something, feeling insecure. So this dude that she's flirting with, the police officer, Brian Higgins is his name, he starts really liking her. This was just a game for her. She didn't really care about him. She just wanted a little bit of attention for a short period of time, just to kind of wake John up, like, hey, you don't want me, or you don't put in the effort, somebody else will. That was it, period. After her little flirtation with Higgins, she was like, look, dude, I don't want you like that. And he says, yeah, I want to settle down. I want the real deal. I want the real love. She said, that don't exist. So really, she's like shutting him down. He messaged her. She says, stop messaging me. Look, I am with John. This was a mistake. La, 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 la. So the night of John's passing, she had already cut it off with Brian Higgins. John and Karen had been getting into it, just back and forth, bickering all day. He was being emotional, tit bag, and she was being just a jealous psycho freak. Blowing him up like a lunatic, and he was ignoring her because he was trying to take care of these kids. And really, I think he wanted her to come and spend the night with them and stay with them, even though that they were bickering, because a blizzard was coming, and he wanted some. I'm sure he was thinking, I'm about to be trapped in here with these 2 freaking kids. At least I can do is have somebody to go to bed with. So, and then she was afraid he was going to be talking to somebody or finding out about, her and old Higgins texting. Kept calling him. He wasn't answering her. He was ignoring her. And then finally, after making her wait and be anxious, him be an avoidant, he finally responds to her. Says, okay, I'm going out. Papa's going to watch the kids. I'm going to do this. If you want to come, you can. So, she's so excited because he finally answered her. So whether she wanted to rip his head off or not, she just was so glad to put it past him tonight, because genuinely, when she started picturing her life without him, it was like, people get like that sometimes.
So at first they meet up at a bar across the street from where their friends are. You can tell he's happy to see her, rubbing on her back and all this. They seem to be having a good time and missing each other.
This lady, Jen McCabe, she's gross. He decides to tell John, hey, we're going to go out for my nephew's birthday. We're going to go have some drinks. You should come. And all their friends, they'll go meet at this place, this bar, local bar in town. A bunch of cops. Jim McCabe's brother-in-law is also a cop that was texting Karen. Like I said, John's cop. So they're all being completely unprofessional. I mean, I just don't understand as public servants how you're out there acting like idiots, but they're drinking. These people are partiers as adults. They're drinking, they're driving. Some of them have even talked about drinking and driving in their cop cars, all kinds of crazy crap, but the night gets crazy. Okay.
So they're still in good spirits, and they decide to go across the street because Jen asked John to come with them and hang out for the night. So as you can see, they're leaving the bar and they seem to be happy and ready to enjoy the rest of the night.
Let's talk for a second about what actually happened in the time leading up to everyone going to 34 Fairview. Brian Albert, Brian Higgins show up drunk at the waterfall. They'd been drinking in the afternoon. You know about the flirtatious texts that were sent between Karen Reed and Brian? Higgins was clearly pining over Karen, but for her, the flirtation had ran its course. It was done. She was happy and committed to John. You could see that in her actions with John that night. You don't have to guess.
So 10:54 p.m., Karen and John go across the street to meet with Jen and that crew. And I find it odd that the first person John comes up to when he arrives is Brian Higgins, because they're not friends. And he knew that he had been texting his girl because Karen stated that, and Brian said on the stand that Jen had texted him and said John had saw that he was texting her. And Brian Higgins' response was, OMG. And she said, oh, it's fine. And so now he's all excited thinking it's a competition. I also think it caught Stumpy off guard when this good-looking tall man comes in just flat out in his face, like, dude, you're not a competition. I think he was excited to see Karen, but then he immediately got in defensive mode.
She or John O'Keefe would even be there.
So he was under the impression that John was like this jerk, and here John is hugging people that he's there with and greeting everyone, just being a super friendly guy. And now he's headed behind the bar to greet Matt McCabe. And so he starts to get uncomfortable because this is his crew. And why does everybody like this guy? He's supposed to be the one that Karen desires. And so here you see Mr. Brian Albert, who he had been drinking with all freaking day long, start whispering in Higgins' ear. Higgins looks up at John while Brian Albert is whispering to him, and it's clear that they're talking about John. I think Brian Albert is dirty. I think he's drama. I think he's a jerk and gets away with a lot of things and loves to see a good fight. And I think right here, he's stirring the pot. He knows that Higgins is lonely and he's crazy about Karen. And I think right here, he's wanting them to fight tonight. Brian Albert's into boxing. There's like a series a documentary series on Netflix where he is like doing some sort of training boxing. He just loves a good fight. So I think he is stirring this pot and wanting them to fight tonight real bad. And I think that Higgins is obsessed with also being cool in front of Mr. Albert, who is, one of the top head law enforcement guys. And I think he enjoys the drama. He doesn't get much action on anything in life. And so this is just up his alley to stir. And he's like, oh, you can see like the way his shoulders are getting poofed out and he's trying to be big dog. It's so bad that he signals him to come over there. So it appears that he didn't want even Brian's wife, Nicole, to even hear what they were talking about. And at one point, you can see Nicole even turn back and look at them like, what are y'all up to? Y'all are being weird. And if you look close enough, you can see her actually even move into another seat and lean back to even get closer to them to try to make out what they're saying. She definitely could sense something not good was up because she knows her husband. I'm sure they've been together since high school, and she knew that something bad was probably about to happen tonight based on what she was getting out of her husband and whatever her husband was telling her to the side.
They all are ending the night, but little Miss Jen McCabe is not ready to end everything. And so she says, hey, we're all going over to my brother-in-law Brian's house. After we leave here, y'all should come. Cool. Right? As they're at the bar, Brian Higgins, Karen has ignored him all night long, right? She don't want nothing to do with him. She's like, oh God, he's here. He texts her, well, right? So she does. Text her, well, right? So she doesn't respond to him. She's like, oh my God, I don't want anything to do with him. Well, he starts drinking. He's getting freaking wasted. You know, he's wanting her. She don't want him. She's let him on, which she did. She let him on, but dude, let go of it, you freak. He really wants to find an opportunity to get on her. Even though he's not friends with John, he texts John because Karen clearly wasn't responding and says, y'all coming over? Okay. His friend, the other Brian's house. So they decide to go over there. They'd never been over there before. Because they pull up, it's like nobody's there, right? It's about starting to snow. It's no lights are on in the house. It's dark. And she's like, what the heck? And so it took them a little bit to find it. And once they finally get there, she's like, I don't even know if we're invited here. Like, this doesn't even look like anybody's up. You know, Jen invited us, but she's not the owner of this house. Like, it's her brother-in-law's house. Will you run in and just see if we're even invited? Like, are supposed to be here? He's like, sure. So he goes in. And, she's waits for 10 minutes. And she's like, hello, are you coming back out? Like, oh my God. Like, what do you do? Go in there and freaking start drinking, taking shots? And was this all just a plot because we've been arguing all day? He's just teaching me a lesson. Like, what the heck? So she's blowing his phone up, calling him. She's like, oh my God, I'm not going to go in there in these people's house. Like, what is going on? Like, what? Screw you, John. I'm leaving you. She said other words, but she was cussing him, leaving him voicemails, which sounds awful now, but she was freaking mad because she thought he was just being a punk. He was drunk and was teaching her a lesson. So she says she had watched him go in the house. And so she's so mad at this point because it's like, you know, past 10 minutes at this point. And so she leaves. She's like, screw him. He can get his own ride home. And so instead of going and getting in the bed, she just sleeps on the couch because she wants to hear him. She said he's never not come home. He's always found a way to come home. And so she's like, I'm going to sleep on the couch. And then just so when he gets here, he's not crawling in bed with me and thinking that we're going to be okay. Like, I'm mad. So she's wakes up at like almost 6 a.m. God, he's not here. Like, where the heck is he? So she's convinced that maybe he slept with somebody or something. Calling Jen's phone. Where is John? And where is John? And Jen is like, he's not here. He was with you. And she said, no, he went in the house. She said, no, I saw y'all outside. He never came in. And she's like, what? Like, what do you mean he never came in? I saw him come in. She's like, no, he didn't come in. Well, he says, come and pick me up and I'll help you look for him. And she pick up another lady. Long story short, they find him in the snow, dead, like frozen dead. He's got like raccoon eyes, these tons of parallel, like claw marks and bite marks that appear from a dog all over his arm. He's got a gash in the back of his head and he's, frozen. Dead in the snow. Family, they say that they had let their dog out to go to the bathroom around midnight. The dog was a girl named Chloe, and it was a German Shepherd, and it was known to be a vicious, like, psycho dog.
2018, a Canton resident is walking her golden doodle past 34 Fairview when Chloe surges out and attacks. Chloe couldn't be restrained until a member of the Albert family came out of the house, and the golden doodle was covered in blood. Is then taken to the vet. According to the veterinarian, Chloe had wanted to kill that dog based on the severity and location of the bite marks and should be reported to animal control. When the resident tries to do so, she receives a message from Mr. Kevin Albert stating, so how can we make this thing go away? January 31st, 2022, during the autopsy of John O'Keefe, photos were taken of his arm injuries, which document a number of patterned linear abrasions on his right arm. Dr. Frank Sheridan would later opine that injuries to O'Keefe's right upper arm and forearm are both consistent with animal claw or scratch marks and puncture wounds, consistent with an animal bite mark. Similarly, Dr. Murray Russell would write tissue defects, puncture wounds presenting as round holes displayed in an arch, particularly when accompanied by claw marks, recognized by superficial linear abrasions arranged parallel to each other and are highly characterized as a characteristic of wounds induced by dogs. April 2022, Brian Albert testifies before a grand jury that during the party, he let Chloe out to the bathroom, stating, I let it back in. I monitored it a little because we usually don't have people over. This dog's not great with strangers. May 2022, the defense starts their own investigation into injuries. Private investigator Paul Mikowski begins interviewing people with first-hand knowledge of Chloe's violent incidents. May 2022, Leslie Perlstein is walking her poor dog past the Albert residence when Chloe then attacks that dog. Leslie attempts to intervene. She's then bit on her left hand. Another person tries to separate the two dogs and ends up suffering bite injuries to their neck, arms, and legs. Both individuals are transported to emergency room as a result of the attack. An image of the hand injury sustained by Ms. Perelman is attached. May 2022, a Canton Animal Control officer writes a quarantine order for Chloe as a result of this incident and consequently, Albert family decides to rehome her. Nicole Albert then confirms to animal control authorities that Chloe's rehomed because she was violent towards people, saying they were afraid the next time she gets out, it could be worse, and we just cannot risk it. May 2022, ownership of Chloe is then transferred to an individual with the surname Riley. In return, Riley transfers Chloe to an adoptive family in Vermont, who rename her Cora. October 2022, in open court, the defense states that they believe the arm injuries to the dog attack sent to the court. Let's put it this way, animal wounds. It looks like he had been mauled by an animal.
This is what it looks like to me. It's scratch marks and bite marks. They do the autopsy report. There's no like dog DNA, but they find pig DNA. I'm like, pig DNA? There's no wild hogs running around frickin' Massachusetts. What the heck? So I'm like, oh wait, what do dogs, big old frickin' German Shepherd dogs, gnaw on all the time? Rawhide and frickin' pig ears. So I'm thinking when that dog bit the fire out of him, that dog had frickin' was gnawing on a pig ear, and that DNA from that frickin' pig ear that you can buy at Tractor Supply. I don't know where it is in the frickin' north, but back down here we get them at frickin' Tractor Supply. That's where the DNA is. And so coming from Alberts, who all grew up, they went to the frickin' Canton High School, these brothers and the white, like Jen McCabe and her sister Nicole, who's married to Brian Albert. Nicole and Jen both played basketball for Canton High, and Daniel, Nicole is Brian Forever crap. Like they're vetted in this freaking town. The other brother owns a local pizza parlor, all kinds of crap. Well, they've been living in this freaking house. Brian had bought it from his parents. It was like his childhood home. Right after all down, he sells the house, right? He sells the house. Also, Chloe, their dog they had for 7 years, randomly give her away. Like, get rid of Chloe, the dog they had for 7 years. Get rid of the house. They had a nephew named Colin who was there that night. Colin's known to be kind of a local cocaine dealer. He's a little rich boy, a little pretty boy, does whatever he wants, wears his little sweaters, vests, and his frickin' polos and button-ups with his little comb over hairdo. He was a little star football player, la-di-da-di-da. He had some anger issues. They talked about how he was a drinker. I'm like, drinker? He's in high school. Well, you know how boys drink and stuff. No, they try it, but you're not okay with it when you're freaking cops. But anyway, he had anger issues.
Now let's talk about the meathead titty baby Colin Albert. He was there that night. He had a history of trespassing through John's lawn. John was very particular about the care of certain things, like the inside of his house and his lawn. He was left out of all police reports to the point where Karen and her team did not know he was even there until Steve Scanian reached out to them. He has personal connections to Michael Proctor, having been in a wedding party with him. During the last trial, numerous witnesses couldn't be bothered with remembering their own actions, but had distinct memories of 12:10 as to when Colin left 34 Fairview. Multiple people who were at the house had given different testimonies about his whereabouts in the house. Caitlin saying he was at the door when her family arrived, but Brian Albert saying he was in the kitchen. Again, they all arrived at the same time. The timeline that Colin gave and the timeline that his parents gave both could not have happened in the way they said without destroying the other. Colin and Chris would have had to run into each other when they came home. When police asked Colin for his phone, he refused and directed them to talk to his father. The FBI showed up to see him at his college. Suspicions over the screenshot of the text message he sent to Allie McCabe asking her to pick him up at 12:10, that include lettering not lining up, timestamps not changing, etc. The judge being okay and letting this into evidence, Allie McCabe saying she saved a screenshot of this text as she deemed it the only thing of importance, Allie McCabe getting rid of her phone, Jen McCabe, Live 360 showing Allie McCabe lying on the stand, and lying multiple times during his testimony about not having social media, not getting into fights, saying the scars on his knuckles came from catching his fall on his knuckles instead of a flat hand, his purposefulness to not remember any times, actions, etc. during his cross to the point where Jackson asked him about something, he just said, he replied back with an, I don't know, even though he had just said it moments ago. The DA, Michael Morrissey, making a video explicitly saying he was not involved. Wow. Just wow.
His parents lived next door to John, and John had issues with him throwing beer cans in his bushes in his yard. It was in running across his yard or driving across his yard and things like that. And it was so bad that John had yelled, and I know that they tried to minimize this, saying it was about the other son, and it wasn't that big a deal, and it was all a big joke. And they put John's name in their phone as some sort of character that yells, "Get off my lawn." But at the end of the day, I think John took some sort of interest in Colin as far as that little drug stuff, and he didn't like the kid. I think he thought he was a little punk, and I think he'd been watching him, and they didn't like each other. And so Colin, I think that night when John walked in and said, "Oh, hey guys, is everything okay?" or whatever, Colin said, "Why the heck is he here?" Other word. And maybe was drunk, whatever. Maybe swung at him. I don't know. Chloe as far as a protector because she didn't do well with people she didn't know. Then started biting him, blah, blah, blah. Brian Higgins probably jumped in, and here we are. So that's what I think happened. I think they're covering it up. I think this is all one big freaking cover up. Now, I say cover up because the head of the freaking investigation, we will never know what really happened, probably because the head of the freaking investigation, they made sure, since this was a police officer, they made sure that somebody that was over the investigation did not have any connection or ties, did not know this family. They asked Michael Proctor, who was with the police department, do you know this family? He says no. Okay, so turns out he's a piece of crap. He gets in a group with his high school buddies, starts talking, saying horrible things about Karen, talking about how he hates her, talking about her medical issues, very horrible medical issues, talking to his, saying horrible language, offensive words, telling his buddies that he's looking for nudes in her phone. He arrests her. He doesn't care about anybody else but her. Somebody's going to pay, but it's not going to be a cop, he says. Okay, so then we find out that not only did Proctor know, which we already knew that they knew each other because of all a bunch of other crap that came out, but Colin Albert and Alan Jackson, Karen's attorney, puts down a wedding picture and says, do you know these people? And he says, yeah. Because he was the frickin' ring bearer in Michael Proctor's sister Courtney's frickin' wedding. So not only do they know him, but they've known him since he was a little kid. So they've been protecting him, and of course they're going to pin this on somebody else. Also, Brian Albert had a sling on his arm the next day. Weird. Brian Higgins left at 1:00 in the frickin' morning and went to the police department and did all sorts of weird crap up there. God knows why. He was drunk. Have no idea what all he was doing in there. He lied about what he was doing at the police department, so God knows. And then, Colin had marks on him. A photo was taken of him with his friends, and he had his arm around his buddy, and you could see solid red with marks on him. Probably being drunk, because he was upset about what happened the night before he killed a man. Don't know. However, what I do know is this is dripping with reasonable doubt. And if you don't think it is, you're what's wrong with America, because it is guilty until proven innocent, unfortunately, here. And this woman is freaking innocent, and that has been proven. Free Karen Read. Bye.
lies like shit. Karen might be jealous and emotionally scorned, but that doesn't mean you can pin this on her, because Brian likes rainbow pour. Little piggies finally got caught. Mikey Proctor, what a twat. He's the main special one, now unemployed, but hey, he got to feel real big for his high school boys. Hey, I know what you did. I know what you did. Liar, liar, pants on fire, call the fire truck. Oh wait, Higgins has it, poor Karen doesn't wanna fool. Liar, liar, pants on fire. I know what you did. Coco cleaning, Colin bleeding, Jen should have just asked Jeeves. Oh, I know what you did. You tried to cover it up, but Jim McCabe lies like she. Karen might be jealous and emotionally scorned, but that doesn't mean you can pin this on her, because Brian likes rainbow pour. Little piggies finally got caught. Mikey Proctor, what a twat. He's the main special one, now unemployed, but hey, he got to feel real big for his high school boys. Hey, I know what you did.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I took the photo of Colin and I put it in ChatGPT.
About a month after
Seriously?
Reed's defense claimed
Fairview. Brian Albert, Brian Higgins show up drunk at the waterfall. They've been drinking in the afternoon. You know about the flirtatious texts that were sent between Karen Reed and Brian? Higgins was clearly pining over Karen, but for her, the flirtation had ran its course. It was done. She was happy and committed to John. You could see that in her actions with John that night. You don't have to guess.
Brian Higgins sees Karen Reed enter the bar.
I didn't know she or John O'Keefe would even be there.
His attention is quickly turned to John O'Keefe approaching. John greets him with a warm embrace, then does the same with Brian Albert. Brian Albert and John show affection by patting each other's backs. Brian Higgins leans in, asking John where they're coming from. John points, indicating they were across the street at C.F. McCarthy's. John sees Karina Kolokithis, prompting him to walk over and...
She was happy and committed to...
Hey, I know.
Describe, was the conversation coherent?
Very coherent.
Was she making sense?
She was.
Was she engaged in the conversation?
She was.
And did you make any observations regarding her sobriety?
She seemed fine to me.
And you're a pharmacist, correct?
I am a pharmacist. So John went over to Karen and he gave her a kiss on the forehead.
Okay, and that kiss on the forehead, why did that stand out to you?
So honestly, I'd never seen something like that before, a boyfriend do to a girlfriend in public. Never saw that. So it just stood out to me. I was like, wow, that's the sweetest thing I've ever seen.
So here you see John giving Karen a forehead kiss. And who is watching them exactly? In the direct line of sight is Stumpy in his little black hoodie, and he starts getting real agitated at this point. So it's only been about a week since Karen stopped responding to Higgins' texts. And at 11:30, he can't take it anymore because she's literally almost right next to him. And so he texts her. Leading up to that moment, we'll see him look in her direction at least 3 times. 1, 2, 3. At this point, he's in the South, what we like to call whiskey bent. He ends up looking at his phone, sending her the text message, and all it says is, well, because she's so close and, you know, she's still not saying crap to him. She doesn't even acknowledge it. Like, he doesn't exist to her. She kind of walks off even farther away from him. Periodically, you see him literally checking his phone to see if she responds over and over, looking down at his phone, checking it, no response, checking it, no response. He's just feeling like, oh, okay, that's fine. I don't care. You don't care? Okay, all right.
Your hand, give you a hug?
No, she did not.
No, she didn't do any of those things, did she?
No.
It's like you didn't even exist.
So at this point, him and Brian Albert are horse playing, just drunk, and he's just really taking whiskey shots. In the psych field, this is a term we like to call peacocking, which is when one person is trying to try to get the attention of someone that they desperately desire. If they feel like that they're not being sought after hard enough, they will do outrageous things to try to get attention, whether that be bad or good. They just kind of act out and try to show that they are the tough one. They're the most admirable. It's kind of like in the animal kingdom when gorillas like start wrestling each other to try to show out in front of the woman gorilla, so she wants them and they get to be king of the jungle. Ridiculous, I know. See, in this case, he got Albert to start wrestling him, and Albert actually was stronger than him. So then he was actually even more embarrassed because it wasn't working. But then when he looked up, Karen wasn't paying attention at all. So he kind of just stops and's like, okay, well, crap. She's not even looking over here. The only person that even caught on was Jen. Karen could care less what they're doing. She is not interested in anything. So he just stops when he realizes that she's not paying attention. He wasn't interested in that. But then there is like this moment that gets really, really weird. You see him and John make direct eye contact. Like they lock in. And in this moment, I think John could sense that something's off. Like, all right, this guy's had a lot to drink. He's taking it too far.
And then there's that sparring and fighting that he and Brian Albert were engaged in. Of all the things they could be doing, this is what they were doing just minutes before John O'Keefe walked into that house at 34 Fairview.
So the bar's about to close, and I think John's like, I don't know if this guy's wanting to fight me after this or whatever. So John offers to, I think, buy them a drink. They decline. He's trying to be nice, just to try to like chill out.
She actually positioned herself away from you at the other end of the table on the opposite side in the corner. Isn't that right?
Here you can see him like even stretching out his stumpy little leg to try to put it on her chair, just so if she turns around and acknowledges him, he might get to touch her or something. I don't know. He's body language, you can tell he is so uncomfortable. She's still not turning around. He checks his phone again to see if there's a response, and it's a no. So at this point, I think Brian's brother Chris sees something's up, and so he decides to walk on over there and start talking to them. Then Karen turns around and starts engaging with Chris Albert and Brian. And still not having anything to do at all, not even looking at Brian Higgins. So he's like so close to the woman he's obsessed with, and she's not even acknowledging at all that he even exists. Like, no eye contact. So then he starts getting uncomfortable and looking away, and he just doesn't even know what to do at this point. She's not talking to him at all. He doesn't even exist in her world.
I don't know where she was all night, no. I don't know.
Upsets you that she ignored you or didn't pay attention to you?
I did not feel ignored and didn't upset me at all.
But it bothered you enough to send her a text, didn't it? What the hell, Karen? What about me? Texted her, well, at Waterfall, she ignored that text too, correct?
Well, that was the only text I sent that night to her, yes.
Okay.
She didn't respond. So it was between the January 12th and I would say before the 28th, because the 28th, she didn't respond. And
You said, well, on
Yeah.
the 28th, right? The text of substance between the two of you, talking between the two of you, that substance ended on the 23rd, didn't it?
I'd have to have the text in front of me to agree with you. Okay, are you directing me to the 23rd?
I'm directing you to the last page. Just look at everything on it and tell me if that refreshes your recollection. This is the last substantive text about you and Karen before your well.
Yes, it'd be the 23rd at 9:40.
Okay? Yes. So it was 9 days of texting between the two of you, correct?
I believe so, yes.
You two never had any sort of physical contact with one another,
Do you mean intimate when you say physical?
correct?
Yes.
I'm not talking about shaking her hand, Mr. Higgins.
Well, I want to answer your question truthfully.
I would like you to, too. You didn't have any physical, intimate contact with Miss Reed, correct?
No, I did not.
There was no other hugs or kisses or certainly no sex.
No.
Over the course of that week or so, Miss Reed did explain her feelings about her relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, correct? In text messages.
During the pendency of our communication, she did express, yes.
Constantly asking for clarity and explanation from her. Were you not?
During our communication, I did ask for clarity.
Many times. You
Yes.
saw it, correct?
Yes.
And she pretty much wouldn't answer you, correct?
She was non-committal, I would say.
Which is why you were saying in your texts, why won't you answer the question? And she would parry and not answer that one either, correct?
Well, I didn't want to be stuck in the middle of anything.
That's not my question. I'm asking you whether or not she would answer your question about clarity specifically.
She avoided questions about text.
Right. And that was frustrating because you were very interested in her romantically at that point, correct?
I was attracted to her. I don't know that I would say very interested in her.
You texted things like, why did you get my number and reach out? That's a quote from the text we just read, correct?
I did ask that, yes.
You said, now what? Is that right?
Yes.
You texted, so now what? Correct?
Yes.
You texted, I would hang out, meaning with you,
Yes.
correct? You were showing interest in her.
Yes.
You were showing romantic interest in her.
I wouldn't say it was romantic. I was trying to vet it out.
Well, you weren't seeing if she wanted to go see a ball game with you as a buddy, right?
I was trying to vet out was her interest in me legitimate in hanging out. I mean,
Well,
it's kind of hard to date somebody when you have a boyfriend.
Mr. Higgins, well, it's not if both people are dating other people, right? Happens all the time, doesn't it?
Well, I think I asked that question too.
Right. That's not my question. My question is, you seem to have a problem admitting that you had a romantic interest in my client. Is there a reason for that?
I was attracted to her.
Right. Physically attracted.
I thought she was an attractive woman.
Romantically attracted.
I'm not going to go there. No, I don't agree with that.
Of course you're not going to go there because that would put you in a very awkward position, wouldn't it, sir?
Objection.
Not at all.
So the objection sustained is to the form. You can ask it differently, and that answer will be stricken now.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. May I?
Yes.
You were sexually attracted to her.
I was physically attracted to her, yes.
Okay? Sexually attracted to her was my question.
Well, I think in the text I said, you're hot.
Okay? So my question again, Mr. Higgins, you seem to not want to answer my question. My question is, were you or were you not sexually attracted to my client?
Yes.
Okay. You were saying things like, what do you want from me? And I want the real deal. Those are your words, correct?
Yes.
And the real deal with you would be to date her, to get involved with her, romantically, correct?
No.
The real deal was what? A relationship, a buddy-buddy relationship? You just want to go like,
The same thing everybody wants, a real relationship.
I'm sorry, you texted, what do you want from me? And her responsive text was, I don't know. Correct?
I think that was one of the texts.
Again, with this theme of her being non-committal, one way or the other. Is that right?
Well, that's not how I would interpret it as a theme, no.
Well, didn't you just say she was non-committal? Now, you've already indicated, and I don't think we need to go into a lot of detail about this, but I want to ask you just in general, the mood at the waterfall was good spirits, correct?
It was great. Band was playing.
You did not see any sort of tension between John and Karen?
I did not.
Several drinks before you even got to the waterfall, right?
I think it was 3 to 4.
Did you drink additionally at the waterfall?
I did, yes.
Did you drink whiskey or beer or what?
Whiskey.
Okay. How many do you think you had?
I couldn't put a number on it.
There in your personal vehicle and drove over to, that's the Jeep, over to 34 Fairview.
I did, yes.
Karen walked in with him.
Yes.
But she did not greet you, did she?
I think they kind of went like that in different directions.
Right.
Yes.
Did she greet you?
No.
Right.
No.
So safe to say that throughout that evening, once she was sidled up next to John O'Keefe or the friends that she was with, she never turned back around and came over and even acknowledged you, correct?
That's correct.
So she basically ignored you the entire evening.
That's not how I interpret it, no.
I didn't ask you how you interpreted it. I asked you what she did. Did she ignore you or did she pay attention to you?
Objection.
You can go ahead and answer that. Did she ignore you?
No.
So she paid attention to you. Came over and said hello, shook your hand, gave you a hug.
Well, just because somebody didn't come over doesn't mean they ignored you.
Did she do those three things?
Hug? What was the other
Did she
thing?
say hello, shake your hand, give you a hug?
No, she did not.
No, she didn't do any of those things, did she?
No.
It was like you didn't even exist. Did she ignore you or not?
No, she did not ignore me.
So what did she do to not ignore you?
She was
What's her interaction with you?
Can I answer now?
Sure.
In my opinion, she was working the room, talking to people, saying hello, catching up.
Right. The one person she didn't come over to talk to and say hello to and catch up with is you.
Well, I don't know that I was the only person, but I was one of the people that she didn't say hello to, yes.
Treated you sort of like a stranger.
I don't feel that way, no.
She actually positioned herself away from you at the other end of the table on the opposite side in the corner. Isn't that right?
I don't know where she was all night, no.
Did
I
that
don't know.
upset you that she ignored you or didn't pay attention to you?
I did not feel ignored and didn't upset me at all.
But it bothered you enough to send her a text, didn't it?
No, it was a flirtatious text. It was just, that was it.
It bothered you enough to send her a text that said, with 6 M's behind it,
Okay.
and, well, correct?
Well, it wasn't like that. It was, well, that's it.
Just, well, like a well in the ground.
I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think you do too, sir. You meant, well, when are you going to pay attention to me?
No, that's not correct.
Well, why are you ignoring me?
It's not correct.
Well, am I chopped liver?
Objection.
All right, that's sustained. Mr. Jackson, let's move on.
At the end of the night, the group basically discussed going back to Brian Albert's house. Is that right?
There was discussion at the table of, like, were we going to go to the pizza shop or were we going to go somewhere else? And ultimately, it was 34 Fairview.
Before you left, just so we're clear, when you texted, well, she ignored that text too, didn't she?
Can you say that again?
When you texted her, well, at Waterfall, she ignored that text too, correct?
Well, that was the only text I sent that night to her, yes.
Okay.
She didn't respond.
That wasn't my question.
What,
My question is she ignored the text, correct?
well, I don't know if I don't know what her mindset was. If she purposely ignored the text or she didn't see it, I don't know. I didn't read into it.
Did she ignore the text, Mr. Higgins?
I don't know.
Did she respond to the text?
She did not respond.
Got it. So when everybody was leaving, did you leave before they did, John and Karen, or did they leave before you did?
I don't know.
So you just saw Higgins say he didn't know if Karen and John left before he did. But here you're about to see it. 11:57, what actually happens. Chris Albert hugs his niece Caitlin because he is not going over to 34 Fairview, the after party. He already knows something's about to go down and goes to walk home. So here you're going to see everybody walking out. Chris knows something's about to happen because he can see that Higgins is level 10, ready to hurt John, and he's talking crap to John. So much that Chris Albert grabs him, slings his arm down, and he's motioning for John to come outside or to come on. Psycho Line Jen's sister, Nicole, saw this. Caitlin saw this. Brian saw this. So they can't act like they didn't freaking see the tension. Brian saw this. That poor man in the flannel was so uncomfortable. He was about to walk through, but he chose to even walk all the way around. It is clear that this man is livid. This man has reached his level. I mean, he is focused. He is laser beam focused across that room at John. He tries 3 times to get his attention. And what you'll notice is at one time, the bartender came to try to get him to go ahead and tab out to pay the check because they're about to close. And so John turns around just the time where Higgins starts motioning him over. So he didn't see it that time. And so with each attempt, Higgins is getting more and more agitated, trying to be a big dog because the little stumpy thing can be okay now because he's surrounded by, these 2 people he liked to pretend are like his brothers. He's protected, so he's going to talk all the smack he can in a public place, and he's got this protection. But he's wanting to make sure he shows up at 34 Fairview, or he's going to meet him to fight. It is so freaking obvious. What's also clear to me here is that they knew prior that this was about to go down because he was watching for it. I think Brian Albert was egging it on all night. He was ready for it, wanting him to save it to fight him at his house, because he can control the environment. And Chris Albert, who has already been in trouble before, he's now on the city council, a big leader on the city council. And how he got that, I don't know, because he was arrested before for drunk driving, and he killed an exchange student, like a 16-year-old, went on a 30-hour manhunt. They went on a 30-hour manhunt for him because he fled the scene after he killed the guy, and all he got was 6 months of probation. So he still became the freaking city council member, already been in trouble. He don't want that drama anymore, so he's trying to stop this before this freaking happens. But as you can see, he looks for clarification from his buddy, Brian Albert, and to get the go-ahead, and Brian Albert's like, oh, it's cool, man, it's cool. I mean, it's absolutely freaking ridiculous, the whole thing. So this is the second time Chris has his grip on Higgins' left arm, trying to get him to chill out. Chris is trying to assert dominance and to control the situation, but then he looks at Brian, and Brian throws his hands up like, it's fine, man. And so Chris is like, you know what? He throws his hands up too, and it's like, okay, whatever. So at least Chris can say he tried, but he was overruled by his big brother, Brian, who's Mr. Big Time police officer. And so he continues on. He continues to try to get John to come on, let's meet him. I mean, it's plain as day how angry he is and how bad he wants. And I think after they go outside, after Higgins and Brian go outside, Chris was so uncomfortable. He was so afraid something bad was going to happen and that his brother was going to be involved in this, that he even stays to try to whisper and warn John that they're about to do something to him. Like he's about to get jumped. Something's about to happen. That's why he did not want to be there at all. And at this point, Karen, which I think Jen is very sketchy too. At this point,
Jen had already had Karen go outside with her and wouldn't tell her where she was going, like wouldn't tell her what the surprise was. And so poor Karen didn't get to see all this crap go down. Now it's about 12:10. Pay very close attention what's about to happen in this next segment of events. So Chris puts his hand on Higgins's back to try to guide him out. And at this point, this is when Higgins starts acting defiantly. John's paying his tab, right? First of all, I find it very weird. I believe it's Jen McCabe that comes up and she's saying something to John. So I think everybody's so focused on Higgins that I want to know what she said and why her hands are flown up in the air to John over there during the middle of all this. She has a black coat on, so she kind of fades and you can't really see her. So you got to really zoom in to see what she's doing. It's almost like during it, she jumps up because she's like, oh, I'm going to block it out. Like, you know, Jen loves basketball. And so initially she's in like a block out pose as what you would do if you were trying to defend the goal when somebody's shooting and you're trying to rebound. I mean, both of her hands are up. Her back is to John, like she's like in a defense position. Then she comes up and she says something to him, and then she gets the heck out of there. Like, she puts her hands up. I don't get it. This is the exact moment that all this is going down with him hollering. I think this is the second time he tried to get John to come on, because there's that man in the flannel still trying to leave. That's when the man in the flannel is trying to go around the corner to get through, but he sees that they're acting like lunatics, and so he decides to stop and go around the table. Also, she had already walked Karen out, so why did she come back in there? And for what purpose? Did her sister Nicole text her or go tell her, hey, something's going down in there? Like, what really happened here for her to come back? Because they were already leaving. Now, I think what really set off Stumpy's little manhood problem is that as he's trying to get him to come on outside and fight him, or to come on to Fairview, John kind of just dismisses it. He giggles at him. Like, it's almost like John says, okay, dude, like, sure, dude, you wish. And John kind of, looks like John says, do it. Okay, dude, do it. And then he looks over at Matt McCabe and laughs, kind of like, haha, what a little idiot. And then goes to say something, but then the bartender comes up for him to finish. But then John says to him, okay, come on. You come here, because he's trying to get him to go outside with him. But John shows that he is talking to him. Jogs in place a little bit, like he's gonna like get in training mode and stance, like ready to fight. And then he laughs, mocking him to the people next to him, one being Matthew McCabe. After he mocks him, he motions. Come on, see, right there. Come on. Then he has to pay the tab. Just a reminder that Albert Squared and Stumpy all congregated looking up at John right before all this went down. And what the heck is old Jen over there talking to Karen about, doing some weird fighting motion? See, they're definitely talking about him. And then Stumpy looks over towards John like, yeah, we talking about you. Just enough to make eye contact with him. And John's not threatened. He's confident. He has no idea that they're about to jump him. And I think even when Chris tried to warn him a little bit and try to say, he still was like, you know what? I wish they would. And I think he showed up anyway.
after he finally got him to go outside, I think this is when Chris Albert took the opportunity to warn him that they were going to jump him, not to go to that house. I think this is when he tried to tell him, and then he got out of there, finished his beer and got out of there. So John was all confident before, and then when I think he told him that they were going to jump him, his confidence kind of starts being different. He starts making weird, like, nervous movements almost. And then when he leaves, he takes his drink with him and he almost runs out of there. Like, he like speed walks out. He's like waiting, thinking like, maybe this isn't good. So he gets out of there pretty quick at this point. And then once the target has left the building, Mr. Matt McCabe then decides he's going to leave.
And you didn't say goodbye to John, right?
I don't think I said goodbye to anybody.
And you didn't talk to him about coming over to 34 Fairview.
No.
Neither Brian Higgins, Chris Albert, or Brian Albert said anything or acknowledged anything about what we all just saw with our own freaking eyes. They all denied that any of that happened. Like, I mean, how are these people getting away with this crap? This is insane. Now here you'll see it wasn't just Higgins. Look at old Brian Albert turn back behind him with his little fist up in the air. Then he sees that the camera caught him do that, and he takes off after he looks at the camera. Now let's see this again. Also, you'll see little Miss Coco Nicole motions in her little white and black flannel at John to come on. So now you got 3 people telling him to come on. Ten minutes later, Higgins texts, "Are you coming here?" Meaning he was already at 34 Fairview. 9 minutes before that, at 11:49, you can clearly see Chris, Nicole, Stumpy, and Brian Albert all congregating, trying to get real close so nobody can hear what they're saying, and looking up at JJ.
See, at first I thought maybe Chris was just just trying to stop all this. But really, I think he just wanted him to wait to get it in a private place because he's just trying to look innocent on the camera.